7 hard questions you may want to ask your developer that they actually don't want to answer potentially. How do you handle the IP? So there's two forms of the IP. There's background IP, which is things like as simple as password recovery, where it's not that important to you and it's used over several other websites. And then there's your own IP that's specific to your project and what gives you your competitive advantage over your competitors. It's that IP you wish to secure and make sure you speak to your lawyers about the contracts that are presented in front of you to ensure your IP is reserved in that space. Can you give me 3 references, once again, of comparable budgets? Get an idea of what type of projects the company's worked with over the last 3 years, just to get a feel for the type of projects they're engaged in. How many type of staff do you have in your firm? And this is an indicator for, once again, where they're experts at. Those that are in the design agency, they're going to have more designers. Whereas a format like Alliance, they'll have 60% of engineers and then the support staff around that. And what's the ongoing maintenance fees and structure? Some developers will back-end their projects. So in other words, they'll put up what looks like an extremely good price at the start, but they'll lock you into a long-term maintenance agreement. So be wary that whatever maintenance agreement that you're engaging in doesn't going to bind you to that developer long-term. Is automating testing part of or an option for my project, and continuous integration? So once again, we've touched on that a lot today. It's a sign of quality, and that's one of the biggest differences between overseas development or any development is when it arrives to you for your testing, for UAT, that it's actually performing the functions that you need it to. And talk me through the process of delivering your project. So how are you actually going to do it? Like, what are we going to do? Are we going to sit down once a week? Are we going to actually you're going to go away and build it and I don't have to talk to you for a month? What's the process you're actually going to go through? Is there going to be short sprints? Is there going to be long sprints? Are you going to give me time, because I've got to run a business, to stop and think, and maybe you want to divide your development time up over a 2-week sprint, so a week of development and then a week of absorbing that, reviewing that, and then thinking about another development sprint after. And how you protect me from the risk of staff turnover? Obviously, the less people within the firm or individuals that you're dealing with, the higher the risk. So in terms of Alliance or in terms of larger firms, there's a process of handover. How the handover is actually delivered as well is important between staff, so that should a developer leave, there's someone else that can pick up your project.
I'm just going to talk for a couple of minutes and then we'll stop for a break. Most of you in the room are actually pretty close friends. And it's funny, as Scott was speaking, like, I squirmed. And I'll tell you the reason I squirmed. Because we have made all of the mistakes that he referenced. And I thought, it's absolutely true. And he's got, like, I wanted someone who'd had the experience of going overseas. Who else has done an offshore development? Scott's done them. Who's done them? Cam has? Yep. So a lot of people in the room have. And so I would encourage you to, because I'm aware that we often do, for a lot of people in the room, you have multiple projects going on and we do bits and pieces. And I wanted to give people a really good sense for that. But as Scott was going through some of the faults that he's experienced, and he's experienced them regularly and at scale, I thought, you know what? Everyone in the room you pick any of those faults and I could probably find someone in the room and go, you're over time, you're over budget, you didn't present your project early on, all of those. So I felt there and I thought, are we throwing rocks in a glass window, in glass houses? But so before I suppose I'm just confessing my sins before we go through the rest of it. Let me give you a little bit of a run, but I genuinely wanted someone who'd done it to stand up, because I felt if I spoke on offshore development, I would be telling you stories that I'd heard, whereas I wanted someone who'd done it 40 times.